Blog Talk Radio.
Peace and love, family. I'm Brother Ezekiel G. Coop-Hill, and I want to welcome you to the Ring Song Network. It kind of feels good to be back because I've been doing a lot of trust work and getting myself together. So I've been very intermittent about the shows I do, and I apologize for that, but I'm slowly getting myself together so we can come back and bring another fun-filled lineup. But I'm excited about tonight because one of the reasons I shut down was I decided to get myself into a private, to go private, and get on the private side, and I did a trust. And I was looking for someone that could come and teach the people that frequent the Ring Song Network, to teach them about trust, because we're running equity, but we want to run some trust. And I was blessed to go to High Frequency Radio, and the brother was interviewing Sister Gwenn Wycoff. But I want to do it this way. So first of all, I want to bring on someone that is from my old neighborhood in Washington, D.C., PG County. Beautiful sister. Her name is Khalida L. You know just a little bit about her. She's originally from Prince George's County in Maryland. Now she resides in South Carolina. And she does film. She has Khalida has been on her spiritual journey for 4 years. She is the owner of Real to Real Productions, a video production company that explores the truth by bringing the visual voice to those unheard. She is in the process of producing a documentary entitled No Addresses, where she exposes the criminalization of the homeless, which you know they do in Greenville, South Carolina. You know, and then I wanted some personal things about her, so I'm going to give you brothers that like a conscious sister a little information. You know, she's a great eater because she loves to eat hummus, kale salad, chips, and vegan oatmeal cookies. She is a Taurus. She's beautiful. She is going places, and that's why I'm so excited that I got introduced to her, and I'm so excited that she may do more shows in terms of hosting shows, or maybe she may come and bring some information about what she does, you know, in the future. So right now I'm going to give you Sister Khalida, if I can bring her up, and then she's going to do the bio and bring one Sister Gwenn. Okay. Khalida, are you there?
Peace. I'm here. How are you?
I'm good. Yourself? You good? And so welcome to the Ring Song Network. You know, I appreciate you doing it. You know, because Miss Gwenn had mentioned about a certain type of trust in the Roman days, and she may tap into it a little bit. I know she's may not go that deep into it, and what the women in Rome had to do in terms of dealing with trust. So that's when I said, well, I wanted to make it an all-female show, you know, so I'm going to get out the way, let you do what you do. And thanks for doing this for me. We appreciate you. And welcome to the Ring Song Network once again.
Thank you for having me. Peace, family. So I am Khalida L. Like you said, owner of Real to Real Productions. You can check out my website, R like Rachel, the number 2, R like Rachel, PRO. That's r2rpro.com. And you can check out the trailer for No Address. I'm in the process of doing an official trailer number 2 as it's developing. So we are going to get to the bottom of combating and finding solutions to the homelessness, so-called homelessness problem that we have here on this planet. So I want to start the show by introducing our special guest. Enough about me. Our special guest is Gwenn Wycoff. She has 10 years in corporate administration. From 1993 to 1997, she published Perceptions magazine, where it talks about our government, our health, and metaphysics. She began studying, researching, and investigating common law trusts in 1998 and has extensive experience in all aspects of trust administration, such as trust structuring, creating and building trust documents, administration of beneficiary disbursements, and handling banking and investments. She is a contributor to The Art of Passing the Buck, Volume 1 and 2, And Volume 2 goes into extensive detail about administration. It has forms and assets for beneficiaries. So to check out her book, you can go to her website, www.passing, P-A-S-S-I-N-G, Bucks, B-U-C-K-S.com. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Miss Sister Gwenn Wycoff.
Greetings and salutations. How are you?
Greatness. How are you?
I'm fine. I must have dialed into the right radio program.
Yes, you did. Welcome to the Rising Stone Network. So how are you today?
I've had a very productive day. I haven't had anybody scream at me or criticize me. I mean, that's monumental in my life.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, yeah, I would like for you to elaborate on some of the things I talked about in your bio.
Okay.
If you like. Okay.
I'll elaborate on it. Well, I think the Perceptions magazine experience is detailed on a video called Common Law Trust Basics, and I talk about things called disruptors that are sent in by the CIA, and I actually have some suspicion that they're also sent in by the Jesuits. I've just listened to a video how they have been disruptors from the beginning of time. So I tell about that, and let me see what else. I have lots of experience with the trust world because my partner Frank and I administered trusts as the board of trustees for 10 years, and I felt like I was thrown up against the wall every day because there was so much to learn about administrating a trust. Some people, they discover trusts through court cases, and they read all about the troubles and the fights and everything in court cases. What happens in the court system is the trusts that are not administered correctly are reported, and how they should be administered are not reported because those people are not in court. So if we're talking to some legal eagles out there, and they've studied court cases on the common law trust for 10 years, they've only got 20% of the information.
20%.
Pardon?
20%.
Only 20%. There's 80% about administration that has nothing to do with court cases. It has to do with procedures and how to handle beneficiaries and how to handle the finances and how to handle investments. And these things are not in court cases. Mm-hmm. So okay. The other 80% is what I know and what I tell people about. And my background is I come from a trust background, so I have a different perspective than most people in the patriot community who study common law trusts. They don't generally have the experience of getting a check every month or dealing with a trustee or all the other things that go on with trusts.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go ahead and get into trust. Let's delve into this a little bit. We're going to start with the basics and see how we can go within an hour. All right, so what is an irrevocable common law trust?
Okay, irrevocable means after you set it up, you would be the grantor of the trust, and after you set it up, you have no longer any ownership of any of the assets, and you turn the money over to a board of trustees, and you are now not liable for any of the conduct of the trust and trustees. So it means that if you have a stock portfolio of $2 million and it's giving you, uh, it would be a stock portfolio plus investments in businesses, and let's say it was giving you $90,000 a year. You as the grantor, if you turn that over to a board of trustees, you as the grantor no longer have any tax liability because you don't own it anymore. So everything you give up to a trust you don't own. So you have to trust the trustees, or you have to have enough money that you're, satisfied anyway without this extra burden of these taxes. That's part of it. You have another question so I can fill in the rest?
Yeah, exactly. So why is it important to have a trust? Why is there a need to have a trust, and why did you decide to get a trust?
Well, I did it for the wrong reasons, but it's how I got into it, so who cares? I did it to avoid taxes, and I thought it was about tax avoidance. That's part of it, but it's a small part of it. And so after I got my first trust, Frank and I together, he got a trust also. We began researching what a trust was and how it really worked. And there are certain tax advantages with a trust. They're very good advantages. But we do not want people to get a trust because if you turn your assets over to a board of trustees, the board of trustees is responsible to, number one, increase what's called the corpus, or make more money out of the money you give to the board of trustees. And they're responsible for taking care of the beneficiaries. That is their education, that is giving them a cash flow, that is, taking care of educating them about trust protocols and all that. The object of a trust is to keep it going forward in time. A trust never dies, and so there's no inheritance taxes. The checking account signatures just keep passing forward in time in reference to changing trustees. So you have an immortal vehicle that is designed to continually increase the corpus, that is, increase the amount of money in the trust and investments as each generation passes. And each generation allegedly should get richer and richer. And this is how the elite who run the world, this is how they got their money. This is how the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Kennedys, this is how they continually, perpetually make their empire grow bigger and bigger. Now, if you have a trust and you're playing the multiplication game through time, you'll either eventually become companions with the guys who are already playing the game, or they will try to knock you out because they will look at you as a threat. I'll stop there.
I hear you. So you're saying that we can do the same exact thing as the Rothschilds?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And everybody who comes to me and wants to consult to learn how to put together one of these trusts, I tell them your first generation knows nothing and they have to be quiet. Your second generation knows something and they have to be quiet. And the third generation can start, because they should have by the third generation accumulated enough funds so that they could start playing either in politics, or they could start working with bringing up other people and making them more educated and more sophisticated so they can help society, because they don't have to worry about a 9-to-5 job.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So with this, who is funding this trust?
the grantor. Whoever starts the trust is considered the grantor, and they fund the trust. But if anybody's thinking of seriously doing this, who really should be funding the trust is an entire generation of people, such as the grandparents and the parents, the aunts and the uncles. You should all come together because the bigger the pile of money you can get into the trust, the more leverage you have, the more businesses you can buy, the more stuff you can accumulate that will create more money. You have to have money, you have to have leverage, you have to have cohesion for the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. It definitely can be done, but the level of ignorance in this world is profound, and the ability to get people to trust each other is horrifyingly bad. And this is where the challenge is. The challenge is a lot of people can see the vision the way that I see it, but in order to get their group together to pull it off, it's a real big challenge.
Real big challenge. And that's the main thing. People do not trust one another anymore. So,
no. You have to really... you have to really appreciate the opposition. There is an absolute conscious effort to make sure that the people can never rise. And I see through the common law trust an absolute pathway where people can come together and rise together. And it's a profound vision. And it can be done. But there's so much distraction. There's a lot of trouble.
So much distraction, so many frequencies, time, everything is just out of control. And we have to disconnect at some point so we can understand and overstand to study what is really happening and how we can be generational wealthy.
Yes, absolutely. And the issue with all people, it doesn't matter what race they are. The minute they start coming together and having cohesion, they're going to have a whole lot of trouble. There's going to be disruptors and all kinds of a mess. And that's, the people have a lot of reaction to Donald Trump. But from the point of view of strategy, you have to understand he's trying to pull people together. He's trying to bring things together and notice the opposition. You don't have to like him. I'm not promoting Donald Trump. I'm only promoting the idea that the good are the ones who are vilified. And when you try to anytime you bring cohesion together, you're going to run into a lot of trouble. But
they're getting the results they wanted, so we're giving right into it. It's a reality show right now. We need to disconnect. That's all I'm saying.
I'm reading this book called Morgan, J.P. Morgan. He's the big financier. He nearly single-handedly built America in the 1800s. Do you know who he is?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, the person who did the biography, and it's nearly a 700-page biography, she said that in the research, she couldn't... He was so vilified by the newspapers. Does this sound familiar? That it's very difficult for a biographer to really find out what really happened in his life. And it's that opposition I'm talking about. He was trying to pull America together financially, and he had all this, he had tremendous opposition to, he was called names and he was condemned and on and on. It's a standard format. and we need to
Yep.
be aware of it.
Yep. You said it. You said it. So, all right, let's get back to trust, because I know people have a lot of questions out there. So, to set up a trust, can we get like some initial steps on what to do to set up a trust? And then can you kind of go through what you did wrong at the beginning stages and how we can
Right.
correct that, briefly?
Well, at the time I started it, there wasn't any information. It was all scam trusts, all of it. And a scam trust is where they sell you the trust and then they tell you can be in control of it. And you can't. If a grantor cannot be in control of the trust. But if I'm a promoter, I can say that and make you buy the trust. It's not true. Okay, so the first thing a person not has to do, but should do, so they get the information, is go to our website, which was www.passingbucks.com, and everything there is free. Lots of articles, lots of videos. It talks lots of stuff about trust, a lot of audio interviews. And then when you're ready, buy the book, The Art of Passing the Buck, Volume 1. Now, Volume 1 will tell you a tremendous amount of experience. 10 people wrote that book. And it tells you about beneficiaries. It tells you about passing on wealth. It tells you about jurisdiction. It tells you everything you need to know to get any kind of trust you want. Especially most people get a living trust. They download it off the internet or they go to a lawyer or something. Read the book first so you know what you're doing, because it explains lots and lots of stuff. If you want to know the ins and outs of how to do an irrevocable common law trust, that's a whole different ballgame, and that's in Volume 2. And that gives you it shows you what goes on inside of a trust. It gives you lots of examples and forms. But it's a very intense process. So that is the outline of step 1. Okay?
Okay. So we go to your website first and then purchase the book.
Yes.
To go.
And now everybody...
Can you explain, well, let's go even more basic. Grantor, trustee, beneficiaries. What does that mean?
Grantor. Now, I said this before on another radio program, but I'm going to be blasphemous again, and I'm going to say it again. A grantor is God. God sets up the future for the generations to come, and he makes all the rules and regulations to support the beneficiaries. He's a good guy, okay? But you have to understand when you're putting together a trust that you're impacting the lives of people for generations. Now, I inherited from a trust that was put together in the 1900s. He was an uncle, and I became a direct beneficiary by default because he had 2 children and they both died before he died. And so I spent my life this time. I still spend my life this time wondering who he was, because he had such a mega impact on my life. So that's the grantor, and a person who buys what's called a scam trust, or a trust somebody else puts up together for you, where you do not participate in putting together what's called the declaration of trust. That's not fair to your descendants. You have to be involved in what you want for your children and their children and their children. And that outlines things like the kind of education uh, circumstances. If they're sick, how do the trustees handle it? Circumstances, if the children are gifted, how do they handle it? A trust indenture, what the grantor needs to put together and make decisions about, even includes the right to loan money from the trust. I can't think of all the things, but there's a lot of decisions a grantor has to make. So that's a grantor. That's your definition of a grantor.
Okay. And a trustee?
A trustee. He's not related. The first trustee is not blood related to the grantor. But the blood relation is only one step from the grantor. 2 steps from the grantor, which are uncles and cousins. They can be first trustees. But the total disconnect for the grantor requires what's called an adverse trustee. The adverse trustee administers the trust and is called in the legal system the owner of the trust. And he is the one who's responsible for multiplying the wealth. The grantor gives to the trustee funds, FUNDS, and the trustee needs to figure out how to multiply that. Now, we always encourage 2 trustees because trusteeship is so broad. They need to be legally somewhat savvy. They need to be financially savvy. They need to have particular talents. I tell on the there's a video called it's Frank's memorial video, From Darkness to Light. It's on the it's on the internet.
Your website.
Yeah, it's there, and I give Frank's background. The broader the background, the better the trustee. Frank had experience from street fighting to being a thief, to being in prison, to being a stockbroker, to buying and selling oil leases. He owned a lot of property. He just had so much experience. He knew how to build airplanes. He worked in the airplane industry. The broader the background, the broader the background, the better the trustee. But trustees don't have to have that kind of mega talent. They can always hire consultants and that. But to be a trustee, the breadth and depth of life is significant. You need to have some roots and have some experience. And the co-trustee also. So if the co-trustee knows how to do the finances, how to do the bookkeeping, that's excellent. And the first trustee knows how to do investments. It's a really good combination. But anybody, anywhere, at any time can be a trustee. The only thing that it requires is that, number 1, you want to learn the trust business, and number 2, you're willing to take responsibility, and you'll find your way no matter what.
Great information. So I do have a question that came in, and this person asked, what are the different types of trust, and what would you recommend for common folks starting out?
Common folks starting out can get a living trust. It's a good way to get your feet wet, all right, to get the documents and look at them. And, in a living trust, you get to be your own trustee. There's no problem with that. I should mention on an irrevocable trust that, I think I did mention it, that the grantor is no longer responsible for the taxes. Well, on a living trust, that's not the case. You still are responsible for your taxes. In a living
why
trust,
is
you
that?
put, pardon me?
And why is that?
Because a living trust does not disconnect you from the money. Like, let's say you're a school teacher and you get your paycheck every couple of weeks, or how often they're paid, I don't know. In a living trust, the person can put their wages into the trust. In a irrevocable trust, you cannot, because an irrevocable trust earns its own money. So you can't put the money you earn into an irrevocable trust, but you can put the money you earn into a living trust. Now, when the person who has a living trust, when they die, that trust becomes irrevocable because they can't change it anymore. So either way you go, you're going to end up with an irrevocable trust. Just whether you're alive or you're dead. One, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, how does the irrevocable trust earn money?
The grantor puts in a pile of money. Let's say he puts in $100,000, and then the trustee takes the $100,000 and makes investments that hopefully will yield a nice cash flow. And so the trustee is representing the trust. So it's the trust itself that makes the investment, and the investment pays itself out to the trust, the name of the trust.
Okay. And speaking of name of the trust, you can name your trust anything?
You should name your trust something that your children will gain wisdom from, or it will honor the bloodline of yourself. So we always say name the trust after the mother's maiden name. Go one generation back, and so that the children know who this person is that set up the trust, or the history of the trust. In my case, the person who set up the trust, he was like 4 generations ago. I know who he is, and I had some of his history, but not very much. What we have lost, along with our lack of cohesion, is we have lost our history, what our ancestors did and who they were. So in the common law trust I consult with, I try to get that information into the trust any way I can, because I know how important it is to the family to have a solid history.
So let me ask you this. With an irrevocable common law trust and an irrevocable business trust, is it handled the same way?
A little bit differently, but they are handled the same way. A business trust has a relationship with the management trust, where the management trust handles all the hard things, which are the banking, the finances, the investments, and the bookkeeping, and handling the trust certificates, and keeping the minutes and all that. A management trust does all the nitty-gritty, where a business trust does only the business, inventory of the business, taking in the cash, and paying expenses for just the business. But all the other fancy stuff, such as legal licenses, things that are really not fun to do, the management trust does all that.
Okay. So let's digress for a minute and talk about this case, how Art of Passing the Bucks came about. Because people need to know a little bit about it.
With all our experience with administering assets, we got burned out, but we had all this experience and all this knowledge that we had dug up over, I started in 1998. So that was 98, that was 2008, that was 2018. So it's just about 20 years. And we found so much stuff that the Patriot community in their effort to put together the common law trust, and I don't condemn them for anything. I think they've done a great deal of work and research that we also used. But as far as how we had learned through hard experience to actually put together the paperwork and all the experience we had with dealing with grantors and beneficiaries and trustees, we didn't want to continue doing that anymore. So we decided to put our information into 2 books. And they are the only books out there on the common law trust that are this thorough, right? There's other books out there that have parts and pieces, but the volume 1 and volume 2 are almost complete. We did not put everything into volume 2 because the government would then know everything, and people have to have some privacy, and so we left certain key things out. But if you're serious about getting a trust, you'll either realize they're missing and figure it out yourself, or you'll call up for a consultation and we can help you.
Sounds great. So speaking of public and private, what's the difference? So if someone did like a revocable trust, would that be public and the irrevocable private? Like, what's the difference?
The difference is if your trust is dealing with the public, as in, a real good example is oil leases. We have a court case on our website about it. It's called the Redfield court case. They were buying and selling oil leases to the public. And because they were dealing with the public, they were under the scrutiny of the SEC. Now, they could have bought the oil leases and sold them only to the members of their trust and nobody else. Then that would have been private, and the SEC would have not gotten into it.
Mm-hmm.
Got that?
I got it.
It's whether you are dealing with strangers or whether you're dealing with your family.
Gotcha.
That's the difference.
So all of this will upstand in court?
Yeah, that particular situation was a court case. Oh, yeah.
Even with your own, why would somebody come after you with your trust? How can someone come after you?
Okay, well, the worst thing you can do with your trust is not understand taxation and not know how to file correctly or not file, okay? That's the most dangerous thing you can do. Patient of understanding jurisdiction. And if you understand jurisdiction and you understand some of the codes, then you can know what to do to make sure the IRS will never come after you. Okay? But I can't give that information over the radio.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and you were all ears, right? You were waiting.
I know, okay, now you can stop me. Okay, so we're gonna have to consult on the private line, right?
Yeah.
So like, if I were to open my own trust, right, and I don't have a big family, but I just have some assets that I want to put in, how does that work?
Okay, do you want irrevocable? Do you want irrevocable or do you want living? What do you want?
Irrevocable.
All right. Okay, you have what? $10,000, $20,000, $50 million. Pick a number for me. How much do you have in assets?
$50 billion. How about that?
All right, $50 billion. The girl's ambitious.
Yes.
All right. So, $50 billion, huh? Okay. Your $50 billion is probably like Donald Trump's What's he got? He's got $9 billion. All right. So you have probably hotels and properties and all kinds of things. So each one of those items has to be what is called exchanged into an irrevocable trust. So you have to go through a formal procedure, which entails the holding companies, such as if you have a piece of property and you want to transfer that into an irrevocable trust, you don't transfer it, you exchange it, but it's registered at the county, so you have to do the paperwork, and the county has its paperwork. You do it the way the county wants you to do it, and you transfer it, into the irrevocable trust. Now you can take it out of your name and put it into a children's name. Well, what you do is you take it out of your name, you put it into the name of the trust, but on the county paperwork, you tell them it's for your children. Right now, the county might want the name of one of your children or something, and you'll have to deal with that. But if you do it because it's going into your family, then there's probably hardly any taxes. Now, if you do it and it's not related to your family, then there's lots of taxes. But anyhow, you transfer it. You do transfer it, and then you exchange it into the name of the trust and the trustees. So the trustees now own the property instead of you. And
okay.
You follow that? All right. So you just do the same for hotels and everything else.
So let's reverse it now. That's on the wealth side. So let's say someone has like $500 and a car and maybe a house. Okay, they would not be a grantor. They would be, is the house paid for? You have to tell me that. No, not yet.
Okay, then they can't put the house into the trust. Only
the car's paid for. Let's say the car's paid for.
Okay, so this would be an exchanger. This would not be a grantor because this person doesn't need all that fancy stuff. So the grantor grants the management trust, and then somebody else could have a business trust. But the car would go into what's called an asset holding trust, and it would be administered by the management trust. So the car goes into an asset holding trust under the name of the particular asset holding trust, which has its own name. And it's registered at the DMV under the name of the trust and the trustees. And the exchanger doesn't have his name on anything in reference to the car. Right? And what we recommend to really get it into a trust without any question is the trust should actually buy it off him. That breaks the ownership chain. See, you keep listening, you get these little tips.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing a lot, and it seems like a lot of steps, but I see where all the steps are necessary. So
yeah, so the $500, if he wanted to, he'd put it into the asset holding trust, and he would get TCUs for it, or he would put it into the management trust and get TCUs for it.
So what if the person wants to be the actual trustee?
Well, you can't be the actual trustee of your... Well, you can be a trustee of your own assets if you are not the adverse trustee. You can be a co-trustee.
Okay. So break down asset trustee.
Yeah, usually the management trust is the trustee. The management trust have two trustees, and so those trustees become the trustee on the management trust. But if somebody wants to be their own trustee on their little asset trust, they can be a co-trustee.
Okay. Yeah, I recommend everyone get the book, The Art of Passing the Buck, because I know you are going in more and more detail, because everyone needs to understand what all these positions are first before you even think about starting a trust. Because
Yeah, well, you have to know.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, when you were talking about putting it in the trust and transferring it to the trust itself, you're talking about like buying it off to the trust. You're talking about the bill of sale, right?
Yeah, for a car.
Yeah. And then you go ahead and transfer that into the trust itself with the title, and then therefore that will be protected on property taxes as well, right?
Right, right.
And that's the goal, everyone, is to control it or use it, as we say. We don't say control anymore or own, but to just use it and not be
liable. You can still use it. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the game is to preserve your assets for your children, to make sure nobody else gets them, so that your children get them, and then if you read The Art of Passing the Buck, we have put in there the philosophy of the rich and why it works for the rich, and it really upsets some people. In the beginning, when we first published the book, we thought we'd get a lot more flack for putting it in, but we only cared that people understood one of the biggest tricks that the rich use to build up their wealth, and that is what they believe. I'm not saying you should believe it. Don't get mad at me now. I'm going to tell you. Hang on.
Okay.
You know me, I'm blasphemous. What the rich believe is that they're going to reincarnate and they're going to come back into their trust that they set up.
You know, and that's not so far-fetched either. Because they're thinking, yes.
Well, you know, and so we put in a couple things in The Art of Passing the Buck about that. We put in one person's experience where he got killed in a car crash. And we got another history of the Catholic Church with what happened to the whole philosophy of reincarnation. And we have what I just told you, you know, they believe they're going to come back into their own trust. So if you believe you're going to come back into your own trust, trust me, you're going to do the best you can to make sure it works properly, because you want that trust to be there when you come back, if you want to accept the idea that you might come back. All right, so I guess we need to...
I was just agreeing with you. So are you doing any private calls or classes?
Consultation, but you have to read Volume 1 and Volume 2 first before I'll do consultation. Okay. It takes between 6 months and 2 years to put together a common law trust. And you have to do the paperwork. I don't do paperwork anymore. In fact, your readers should know that we had a battle with the DOJ, and they tried to block the publication of our Volume 1 and Volume 2. We went through that, I think, for at least 6 months. It was horrendous. And I had to be interviewed for 6 hours, 3 hours on one day and 3 hours another day. And they tried everything they could to trip me up. And no, it didn't work. I knew far more about trust than they did. But I had a point. I was going to tell you why I was telling you this. Anyhow, the book has been in a backward kind of way. The DOJ would never admit it, but it's been certified by the DOJ.
And then they want to come after you for contributing to write it, and it's their word. Wow.
Yeah, right. So they really had a hard time, and I tell this on my video. Common Law Basics, how much they got really bent out of shape because we published in the book that the IRS is headquartered in Puerto Rico. I don't know if they are anymore. I mean, as of the hurricane, they were like wet hens over that. The weird thing is that the whole footnote. It's a big, huge footnote in Volume 2, which tells you exactly where you can find the executive order that made that happen, right? And I guess finally somebody looked it up, and they realized I was right. We were right.
Yeah, you were right. And how did you get off on this case?
I don't know if you guys remember Bill Cooper, but he's the one who did that research. And the point that everybody was trying to make was that the IRS is a foreign organization. It's foreign to the several states. Mm-hmm. And it is foreign to the several states. When you understand that a common law trust is a foreign domestic trust, it's a foreign domestic trust. Does that make your head fry?
Yep. Foreign domestic trust.
Right. Because this is why we talk about jurisdiction. The federal government is foreign to the 50 states. Mm-hmm. The 50 states are actually countries. They're their own country. The federal government does not own them, does not control them. It serves them. And it's a foreign entity. And so you have to, this is why I was talking to you about taxation, you know. You have to understand how foreign domestic trust operates in reference to jurisdiction to understand taxation. That's almost explained in Volume 1. And what can I say? You have to know what you're doing. The irrevocable common law trust is not some fly-by-night flippy thing. It's dead serious. And it's about life and death. Seriously. It's about how to pass on wealth to generation after generation after generation. And you freaking have to know what you're doing. Pardon my almost French. You know?
I totally get it, and we do have to understand that we're doing the generational thing over and over and over and over and over, and see it's not getting us anywhere. So let's break it. Let's do the research, figure it out, get the book, because it's the most intense book that's out there. Otherwise, you're going to be doing research and Googling here and there and trying to put the pieces together when you already have it in one spot. So I recommend everyone getting the book, PassingBucks, BUCKS.com, and it will go over everything from the beginning. And then if you want to get intense, what is it, $50 for the first book, Volume 1?
Yeah, $50 for Volume 1 and $575 for Volume 2. And that's because the uninitiated have no business going there.
Yes, so I believe us common folk will get all that we need from one, and then if you need a consultation or anything, I recommend you going to the site. I appreciate you, Sister Gwenn Wycoff.
Yeah.
All the wonderful information. I know it probably went over some people's heads, but it's okay, because her site, it has so many YouTube videos, research, her story, everything for you to get started. So I'm going to bring back Brother Yusiku on the line. Are you there?
Yeah, peace. Great show. And peace, Gwen. How are you? I didn't get a chance to speak to you before we started. We have one caller. Would you take one call?
Yeah, I'll take one call.
Okay, we're going to do one. We're not going to hold her. Hey, peace. 111111. Welcome to the Ring and Stone Network. You have a call for Gwen?
Yes, peace. I would just like to say now, so we can, because I know I know Gwen, not personally, but I've studied her, and I just wanted to say to Gwen, has anybody ever told you today, Gwen, that they love you?
Oh, say it again. I'm
asking you, Gwen. Has anybody told you that they love you today?
Oh, today? Oh, specifically today. Oh, I'm waiting. You'll be number one.
Listen, Gwen, I love you. Okay? I loved you from the first day that I met you, okay? When I started seeing you, okay? Now, listen, I don't want to hold up this because I know what to do here. Leadership is what you need. So I'm requesting that the show, before I even talk about that, come under a common law trust right now, and let me tell you what you guys should do. You should not take any more calls. Ask her as many questions as possible and get as much information as you can. If you do that, I assure you, you'll be fine. Don't take any more calls. Talk to her. I'm not even going to say anything. I'll come back to you guys. I'll teach and I'll talk. But for now, get as much information as you can from Gwenn. That is a civilization bringer we're talking to.
Yes.
Well, are you the best friend that I listen to your show?
I'm a host on High Frequency about a year and a half ago or something like that. But get that information from Gwenn. This is the point. I promise you. I'll tell you everything you want to know. Get as much as you can. That lady is a walking historical monument for now. Believe that.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel like that. I feel old like that.
Oh, gee.
Gwenn, you're a beast. You're a beast, Gwenn. I love it. They may not all understand, but only one thing that I will say to you, please, I know no one has ever probably said this to you, stop holding your tongue, Gwenn. Tell the truth. Tell it exactly how it is. I know sometimes you cut in your words. Just tell the truth. A true trust manager tells the truth. We have an oath of ex officio. We have an oath of ex officio. We are supposed to tell the truth when we are asked a question.
We are privacy. A trust is about privacy.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there was a question as to whether you wanted me to go longer than an hour or not. So where are we at with that?
Well, we're at an hour. It's up to you and Khalida, or like that if y'all want to go more. Because if not, I got the backup where I uploaded your recording, so I can play the second half. I can play the recording, so folks can listen to you with your recording. But it's up to you. It's totally up to you.
I'm willing to do another 15 minutes. How about Colette? You want to do 15 minutes?
Okay, let's do 15 minutes.
All right. And then we'll be done. All right. You have another question?
Well, I wanted to delve into some more what the brother was talking about of what more do we need to know to start. The basic thing is to start because, like with the irrevocable trust, can someone put their business into that as well? Like someone that does not have a family, but they want to leave things to their friends or their mother. Things like that. Or then they have their own business and they want to put their business in there and some other assets. Can they just have one trust or do they need two trusts? Okay, go ahead.
If you want to just put your printing business into a trust, you can do that. The problem with business owners, this is all business owners, this is including me, in order to start a business, it takes a particular kind of willpower and a drive and a need. And those people who do that are singular people. They stand out in society. They're strong. If you put your business into a trust, now you become subordinate to the board of trustees. Is that going to work for you? In most cases, it does not work. So what we tell people to do is create a partnership. So the printing business becomes a partner with the trust. And then you bleed off most of your profits into the trust. And you want to do that for, reasons that you can assume a domestic foreign trust might have. So that's how we treat business trusts. Now, we also, because people who are not very wealthy, they want to start a trust and they have the willpower and they have the vision, but they don't have the money to pay the trustees. So we tell them, that the trustees can have business trusts. And then the trustees have all these great advantages that a business trust can give you. So it's a way to pay your trustees without having to pay your trustees.
And you can also leave all of that to beneficiaries as well, and you can include other property, real estate.
Yes.
All in one, inclusive.
All of that. Because the management trust does all the paperwork. And the reason the management trust does all the paperwork is so the management trust will get paid. If the management trust is doing the bookkeeping, they will be able to take care of paying themselves the necessary fees and percentages that go to them for doing the work. They don't have to go chasing people.
Pardon?
And they what?
No,
the management trust does a whole lot of the work, and so they need to get paid, and so you insure yourself at getting paid if you're doing the bookkeeping.
So they pay themselves, and they pay themselves through the trust.
Right.
Okay.
And
who figures out the percentage on that?
What'd you say?
Who figures out the percentage on that?
Well, it's a deal that you make with the person who puts the business under. A business trust has a management agreement with the management company, and the payment to the management company is either a flat fee per month or it's a flat fee plus a percentage of profits. And so you make that arrangement prior to, getting your business trust. It's part of your business trust. You have to do that. In fact, we have in Volume 2 the management agreement.
Oh.
You can, it's right there. It's laid right out there for you.
It's laid right out for you. I can dig that. So starting a trust, you go into a bank once you're ready. So if someone's ready, just go into the bank and open the account. Do you have to have any startup funding to put in the trust? Or you just
can't
use
open
whatever your assets are, or how does that work?
The settler or the grantor gives money to the trustees, and then, it takes 6 months to 2 years to set up a trust, right? Because you have to train your trustees. So when everything's ready to get signed and notarized and everything, then the trustees take a particular amount of money, a couple $1,000, and a packet of paperwork. Actually. And
let me interject real quick. Can I interject real quick? How long should a trust agreement be? How many pages?
Ours, we start out by giving the client 40 pages, right? Now, the client can do anything they want with it as long as it's within reason. They can add more pages. They can subtract more pages. I've heard of some indentures that are 100 pages. I haven't read them because I think 100 pages is too much. But a trust indenture is the operator manual for the trustees. So it should tell them what to do in every possible situation you can think of. And of course, you're looking in 300 years down the road, and there's no way you can figure it all out. But you can put stuff in there. If this happens, da da da, and if this happens, da da da. Okay.
Yes, the CYA we learn in journalism.
Yeah. Yes, CYA is a good term. Yeah. I mean, what if in the third generation one of your children is born sickly, right? So what do you want the trustees to do about that? That kind of thing.
Exactly. Okay. So then you get it notarized. You come in with a couple of $1,000 to the bank. And what else?
Yeah. Well, the trustees by this time have to know the lingo. They have to dress pretty. They have to, if it's a guys, they have to have, a suit. And if it's a girls, they should put in a pretty little dress. And the idea is you're going into the banker's world, and so the idea is to be just like them. Okay? You don't want to freak them out. Bankers are very timid, frightened people. And I don't exactly know what in their reality makes them so uptight, but they are scared all the time. So when you go into a bank and you sit down and open an account, you have to realize they're very fragile. And you don't want to do anything that's going to upset them or ruffle their feathers.
Love it.
So, all right, where were we? I'm lost. Where are we going?
Okay, just going through the whole process of setting it up.
Yeah, well, there's all kinds of paperwork you have to have done, and it's a tremendous learning exercise for the trustees that are being trained, because they're helping you put together the trust. If they're not helping you put together the trust, they will not be worth, Jack. Jack.
Exactly.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, I do. And then one more thing, just a personal question for me with the business trust. When you have that all established, is that like a copyright, trademark? You can do cease and desist?
I never had to do it. I didn't. I mean, it's your family trust. It's a common law trust, and it's yours. And there's certain ways to register it at the county so that they don't get the paperwork. There are certain. It's registered at the bank. They need certain kind of paperwork. I mean, there's no problem with it's yours. You don't have to defend it that you stole it from somebody as you broke a copyright or anything. No,
because I'm saying that because the federal government, you have to go through all of that to get a copyright, to do all of that. You got to go federally. No. So dealing on the private side is basically that you own it.
Yeah, you own it. Sure.
Wherever else you put it in. Pardon me?
You don't have to. It's yours, Okay. You don't have to do a copyright. I mean, I had to handle the paperwork for the copyright for the art of passing the buck. Now that's a totally different issue. No, that's a book.
I got you.
Our owner. Okay. All right, so we got about.
Yes.
We got about 3 minutes.
3 minutes. But we're going to bring Siku back on the line. I hope I answered some of those questions.
I hope we didn't get too. The issue is so complex. No matter where I start, I'm going to end up in complexity. So I hope I didn't make it too confusing.
No, I understood.
All right.
I'm good with you, but I appreciate you, Miss Gwenn, for being on Rising Stone Network. Brother Siku in?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. My only question is there a middle of the road trust? For folks that don't have a lot of money. Well, for instance, let's say if when they die, their insurance will pay off their house. Can that be automatically put into a trust at that point?
If you have an irrevocable trust in place at the time of the death and the insurance is going to pay off the house, then through a vehicle called a pour-over will that should be attached to your living trust, you can transfer the property into the irrevocable trust.
Okay. And it's not that I agree with what you're saying, but, some of us are poor, so we have to start somewhere. I don't want them to think that they should not do a trust because they can't go get, this huge trust. But, I mean, if you have a house and a car or some assets or even some craftsman tools, because I didn't understand that when I was in Maryland, that the guys would be home and then when their uncle died to get the craftsman tools. It took me a while to, like, what y'all worried about tools? And then when I realized that they repaired them for lifetime, there was people that put their tools in the wheel. So I want just the common folk to know that even if you start somewhere, then three generations later, you might be bigger than not starting at all. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Yeah, start with a living trust. That's fine. I tell people, okay, get your aunt and uncles together, get them all to agree that when they die, they're going to put their assets into an irrevocable trust. And then during their lifetime, the family can get together and they can take their time and they can build an irrevocable common law trust so that it exists. And then as each one of them dies, it gets funded and it gets, put the house into the trust, and the trustees can sell the house to get the money, all right? And as each person dies, the house goes into the trust. You're going to have a lot of money in the first generation to start to invest and carry on. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand.
Okay, so you don't have to do you can do an irrevocable trust and never fund it. You can just say, it's just sitting here on a shelf and it'll be funded upon the death of blah, blah, blah. And then you can have your irrevocable trust and you can get going,
But and also, wouldn't it protect just the common person from inheritance tax, blah, 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 if they're slipping stuff into a trust? You know what I mean?
Yes, even a living trust helps you with that.
It does. Okay.
And with an irrevocable trust, there's no inheritance tax because nobody ever dies in an irrevocable trust.
Mm-hmm. And that's really, I want to get that across because I don't want folks to be intimidated because I can see them, oh man, who's thinking you had this show, but we all got to be millionaires. I don't want to know that.
You don't.
You just got to just own it. You know what I mean? Like that. Now, can I be a devil? You get your little chances where you slip stuff in to try to say, "Are y'all awake, folks?" So I want to slip one. Actually, I know you may or may not answer it, but what if you put your birth certificate in the trust?
Okay, let me explain this thoroughly.
Cool.
I had a lady call me up. She wanted to put her birth certificate in a trust. She had done all the research. She had all the paperwork. She had everything done. I said, I will put your birth certificate in a trust. I will show you how to do that. I will not resist you doing that. I will totally help you. But what you have to understand is putting a birth certificate in a trust is exactly the same as putting a vehicle in the trust or a piece of property in a trust. And when you put that into the trust, you do not own it anymore. You assign it to the trustees. So, is that what you want? She hung up on me. No, that's not what you want. I will not ask you another.
I can see people like, yo, I got 3 directions to go, but I won't go there because I appreciate your time. And hopefully you come back and we do an echelon up because of family crisis. We want to go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Peace. I just wanted to say, Master Teacher, before I say anything, thank you for teaching. Thank you.
Did you have fun?
The trick of life is to force them to teach, even when they don't want to. Because they all have to teach. An interaction means somebody is learning something. Now, the question is, who's clever enough to figure out which one of us knows more and try to pull out a little bit more out of the other one? With that being said, Gwen, can we just elaborate a little bit more on the living trust and the modalities and the beautifulness of the living trust, a contract with yourself?
First of all, let me give a lot of credit in our volume 2, I tell a story about a trustee who took over a trust, and I give the details, and the purpose of that in volume 2 is to scare you. All right. But what I want to do in reference to that particular story in volume 2 is let you know that the guy that I interviewed, he was a lawyer. It said he was a lawyer and an accountant. The guy I interviewed was in the first row, the first fight to force the courts to accept living trusts. I was very fortunate to be able to talk to him. Very good guy. All right, so this really happened to my father. He got old, and he got weird in the head, and he went into a nursing home. My father was an extraordinary manipulator, and he had a living trust, and he conned the nurse to take care of some of his needs, and he gave her one of the pieces of property. He gave her a residential piece of property that was in the trust. And so then he died, and of course I'm the beneficiary, and she's got my property because that particular piece of property in the living trust was registered at the county under the name of the living trust, which meant that that was my piece of property and not her piece of property. And so we had to sue her, and we got the property back. That was a living trust. Is that good enough?
Beautiful.
You all there? That handles it for you?
I just wanted to make sure that there was a jewel that was dropped, if they can create the scene or they can create the connection, because what you want to do is you want to control things when you want to, and you want to not control things when you don't want to. Those things you can delegate to your trustees. So
totally.
The question becomes compartmentalization or the partition of your affairs, because that is what a trustee is supposed to do. Now, if a trustee decides that he would like to delegate his duties out for whatever reason to other trustees, that is fine. But that does not impede his ability to control things if he would like to. Because in the world of trust, this is the law of contract. The first one, the most best one, is the one you have with yourself. Jewel.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay.
The contract you have with yourself allows you the power that you would like to wield. And the contracts that you don't have with yourself allow your trustees to wield the power that you don't want to wield, or that you can't, or you would not like to wield. Trust is the art of being a god. You control everything.
You hear me say that before?
Gwen, I'm a very good student and I study. I hear you.
Yeah. When you realize that the contract is the ultimate law and it goes into equity court if it's questioned, the judge has to go by the contract. You can put a lot of things into that contract that people never even thought of, right? So it's pretty fun once you get the power of it. It's quite fun, actually. The Warburgs, let's take them. They were given a trust for their wedding present. And I guess it was written by the parents or something. In the trust, they gave the rules of how to buy and sell things to create a war. So what they actually did is they gave a trust as a wedding present that created a war, and all the funds of funding both sides of the war came into the trust. That was the wedding present. Now there's a diabolical thought, isn't it?
have to say this. Listen, I'm from Boston. I live up here in Massachusetts and Boston. And Gwen, let me tell you something. My research into these counties, with the county of Dukes and Suffolk County and some of these counties up here, particularly Harvard University, and the advent in the Americas of trust, I believe, had its origins in Massachusetts with the voluntary associations. And I'm seeing some things here. Well, you really have a lot of artistic value to this stuff. That is why I said that trust is truly the art of being a god. How good can you be? It really is.
And once you get that, it's unbelievable. And then you get a trust indenture to work off of, and you go, wow, I can do anything I want.
So you would agree that if you really were a strategic person, you could create trusts that are so lethal that they could go 10 generations into the future if they were funded correctly.
Well, I just said, how to use how the Warburgs did it. So who knows what else was in that trust indenture. They might just be continuing it. And I think it was World War I was the gift. The gift was World War I. That is just so diabolical. It's totally mind-boggling. Of course, they had billions of dollars to start with, so there was no problem funding their long-range goals. But, the other thing I'm into the trust world for is to establish morals and ethics. My thought is if we can get enough trusts started with morals and ethics, which starts with how you handle children, and how you deal with them, you can, in several generations, you can at least bring some of the balance power back. It's a silly idea, but I'm going to go for it.
Okay, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because we were very technical about how we were asking about the trusts. And I think that sometimes trust gets lost in what the trusts are meant for. They're never meant for you. They're always meant for the next generation. Dr. Clark was very clear about one thing, and that is a generation does not prosper unless the previous generation sacrificed for it.
That's absolutely true.
The question becomes, when we understand these trusts, how meticulous we are at forwarding our generations.
Okay, let me tell you.
Go ahead.
I'm going to tell you big part of it, and this is Volume 1. This is the religion of passing the buck, Volume 1. It's how you handle your children. It's how you raise your children. It's how you talk to your children. And you have to understand, I said this on the Youssef interview about the brain development of children. Children are born with an almost jello consistency in their brain. They're very, very delicate. Children are delicate all the way through, into the 30s, I believe. And you have to treat them in a particular way. And there's all kinds of child psychology books and everything. I'm sure somebody somewhere got smart. I haven't read all of them. If you really want to be rich, you have to make your children your best friend. So when they get to be crazy teenagers, they're still your best friend. You have to talk about finances and trust stuff at the table. You have to explain stocks and bonds at the table when they're 10 years old, when they're 5 years old. When they're teenagers, they definitely should be coming to trust meetings. Teenagers should be having, work ethics. They should actually have part-time jobs. There's so much stuff that people should do with their children that they don't. And so most people, they're going to leave them some inheritance, all right? Did they train them how to handle the inheritance? Did they give them the history of the inheritance? Nobody, This is called dissipation of wealth. And so you want to bring up your children so they won't dissipate the wealth. And that's really what a trust is all about. It's about your children.
And I want to just add to that and say that because of how powerful it is and the gravitational field of love, you can transcend even bloodlines with this. And that means that when your families are broken, I'm sorry, Gwen, all that, create your own family. You can create one out of scratch through trust. You don't have to live in degradation and live in the listen, this is the thing about physics that makes this so funny, because like likes like. I never agreed with anything that came out of those schools that said that opposites attract. Like likes like. The people that you get along with, you have the best chance of being able to create trust with. Period. The resources is usually why people fight, and leadership.
Well,
go ahead, Gwen. I'm sorry. Please teach.
No, that's true. I told somebody, one of the people in the audience on the video, Survival of Family Unity. She hated her father and hated her mother and all that. And I said to her, I said, then create your own family. You have to create your own family. And so many people don't have the skill set to do that. You know, the skill set to do that is in language. It's how you talk to each other. And people have to, you know, extend themselves and grow and listen and learn and whatever it takes to be able to bridge the differences. I've recently made a new friend. I meet her occasionally for dinner. We have this game that, you know, we only meet randomly, and we do that on purpose. She's Japanese, and I'm, of course, Caucasian, and so she's the one who initiated the effort to make a friendship. We have zero in common, absolutely nothing, and you can't shut us up. We have so much to talk about. You know, you can bridge anything. You know, we get very excited when we see each other. I got nothing.
You know, that is the funniest thing about trust, is that there is an element to it on which it allows you to detract yourself from all of the layers that are around you. And I'm sorry, but you really don't develop that skill set unless you've traveled a lot. And the thing is that we get up every day and we're born for this human experience. And if you guys, if the human can just experience it the way that you're talking about it, Gwen, see, those are the things that because the children experience it like that. And I remember once someone saying that, you know, to keep your childlike imagination for as long as you can. And I just wanted to say, I had a close encounter, a meeting with a man on a random situation and something that was very, very similar to that, Gwen. And what happened was he turned out to be the CEO of Dom Perignon. And I just happened to be, you know, doing my thing. And he just was sitting there, and we struck up a conversation. And he told me something that really, really, really shattered any ideas that I had of education or any of that. He said, let me tell you something. Now that you understand how to walk around the world, keep your children with you. Take them out of school and let them travel with you. The best education that you can give a child is a liberal arts education on which they are introduced to other people. The element of picking up the sense of being able to communicate with two humans that have nothing in common is a soul type of thing. And that's what you were here for. Sometimes the corporations and how they, you know, they have all of these things around it, you're not able to interact together like that because you spend so much time in jobs and things like that, so you don't see that. But that's a beautiful thing that I heard. When I fell in love with people and talked to people that I don't speak their language. I have friends all over the world. It's the same way. the forcing of morality into our interactions is, I believe, the advent of trust.
Yeah, trust is trust. You know, it's a function and it's a noun. It's an action or an adverb or whatever you want. You know, I've often thought the word trust should have a different name just so it could be separate from trust. You know, but I never caught the hit of what it should be, or you know. Anyhow, I'm kind of done. I'm kind of getting tired. So, do we have anything else we want to talk about?
That looks about it. You know, somebody sent me something about the Justice Department, but I don't really want to go into that. Thanks for sending it to me. They sent me something about the Justice Department complaint against you, which is interesting that they actually found that they went that hard at the sister and her partner, Frank, so that
they did.
We would not learn. You know what I mean? It's like, really, I'm reading this thing. I'm like, they went that hard at y'all? You know,
that stuff is on our website if you ever want to look at it. And and when you look at it and you see the permanent, I think it's some sort of agreement we signed that we wouldn't do blah, 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 whatever. Anyhow, if you look at it and you do a find, you know how to search on your computer, you know, and you look and you search for 1040, you'll see that the Justice Department was so eager to get rid of Frank and I and so embarrassed for whatever reason. I have no idea. They told Frank and I we were forbidden to sign a 1040 or a 1041 for the rest of our lives. Oh, we were so unhappy. You realize,
and the thing,
I mean, I'm that means that I don't have to pay income taxes, and neither do Frank, in case anybody's not understanding my humor here.
Oh, that's serious. That's very serious. You know, even for the simple fact that they went so hard on tax evasion in Title 26, which is very interesting. And I from talking to you, I know you know what Title 26 is. So,
well, you can hear it on my video, Common Law Basics. You can hear the reference IRC code 674B8. You can read it for yourself and blow your mind out. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, hey, I won't even get into that. I just got back on. I don't feel like I'm playing with, me right now. Maybe next month when I get into something, right, we'll bring you back and we can get into that. And that's not cutting you off. I know it's getting late, and I don't want people to, like, the same precaution you have with the common law trust is the same thing we got to do with people challenging the IRS until they truly know, what to do to get out of that whole tax scheme thing. So you
can go through your whole life and never have to deal with the IRS. And the IRS commissioner told you could do that, but nobody can interpret what he said. All right, I'm gonna go because I'm getting silly.
No, it's cool because you can actually just go to the Congress website and and see what's Title 26 ratified, like that. But we won't get into that because they'll be messing with my telephone tonight. And you know what I mean. But
all right.
I want to also thank High Frequency Radio. You didn't say your name. You should say your name.
My name is Phoenician Cal-L. That's my name.
Okay.
I was a host.
Say it again.
Yes, ma'am.
Just say your name one more time.
Phoenician.
Phoenician, like the ancient country.
Like the ancient ones from the Mississippi, the copper people. Yes, ma'am. The Phoenicians.
Oh, Phoenicians. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So.
I just wanted to say, Gwen, thank you for teaching tonight, and I was particularly very, very entertained by your trust quizzes and the free information that you give in the trust quizzes that you can take, the little quizzes and things like that. They were very informational, and just thank you, Gwen. Even if you believe that you don't have a lot of very good trustees out there that are listening to you. Sometimes we're taking the notes from a long way away. But I hear you.
Right.
Everything.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. It's my life a pleasure to dump everything I know into somebody else's head, at least
Yes,
one,
ma'am.
maybe 10. Because when I'm gone,
Yes.
I'm gone.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
right.
ma'am. It is a true humanitarian thing that you're doing because it's great. Thank you.
You can tell. When you
thank
get
you.
attacked, that's when you're doing right. In America, it's whenever the government, because that's respect. It's like an indirect respect. Whenever they attack you, you be like, "Oh, thank you." You know what I'm saying? It's like it's one of the things.
Yeah. I do got one question for you, Gwen. One question.
Wait.
I was studying you.
We got to wrap it up right now, though.
Okay. Just one question. Gwen, I was studying you a couple years ago, right? And I remember there was a situation that you said to me that you actually said to the DOJ that in a motion that they must respect your expertise, and they stopped and just bowed down as soon as you.
Yeah. You have to say it in a particular wording. It has to be exact wording. You have to say, "I object to your attitude, and I object that you do not respect me for the knowledge I have." They stopped right there. Because if you say, "I object," you can appeal anything, anywhere, at any time. And there's a great terror in a legal system that the decisions made will be appealed. Now, the other thing is, one more thing. Please get a subscription. Please, everybody out there, please get a subscription. Because the subscription is the step between the free stuff, the book, and volume 2. So get a subscription. And the book. And volume 1. All right?
All right.
I'm done.
Tell them where at once again so they know where to go. And
www.passingbucks.com. It's plural. Passingbucks.com.
Cool. Gwenn Wycoff family. We appreciate you coming on such short notice. Hopefully you come back again and give us an update. And also maybe we'll get off into some of the more conscious things that you see and feel too, because that's my area of expertise, more the conscious thing. Also, family, I want to thank Sister Khalida L. She had to get off the air, but Real to Real, check her out at Real to Real in Columbia, South Carolina. I was hoping she would give more information, but we'll get back with it. Also, look at next week, because we're going to get off and do some Anunnaki things. I want to thank y'all for following me and coming back. Hopefully next week we're going to have a guy I'm going to try to bring in Brother Lester Loving to do the interview with the brother that had sat down with Zachariah Ascension. Peace, love, family.
Okay, I'm going to
see what it is, they don't know a rock from a diamond. I'm like,